going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Charge the Line with your host, Roger Narvaez, and my good friend and co-host, Tony Perez. Man, T, we just finished watching almost a epic comeback there, huh?
Yeah, almost.
Yeah, Cowboys were going at it with the Eagles, and it was a pretty close game for all you guys that were watching the game. We were right there with you. But I just got back from visiting my stepdaughter in Houston for her sorority day. So we've been wanting to get one out, and it's been a little struggle, man. It's been a little struggle. As you know, as a lot of y'all know, I've been studying. As Tony knows, I've been studying, and we've been talking about it. And before we jump into today's topic, man, it's been a lot, and I never realized, I thought I studied a lot last time. It's totally different. Totally different. I mean, the term obsessed comes to mind, and we talk about it. We send texts, and I'm literally at that point right now, right? Like I'm sleeping thinking about it. I'm having dreams that I'm already getting the promotion. I'm putting everything into it. Even on the ride up here, Ashley, I never let her drive, and she drove coming up just so that I can get a little bit of time in.
It's like any spare moment that you have or any spare minute, you feel like you should be looking at something.
Yeah, I feel like it's obsessive to that point where it's like, fuck, I can't waste any time. Yeah. Every second. Because, I mean, it's a lot of info, and as much and as confident as I am about a lot of stuff, something will pop up in my head, and I'm like, shit.
You gotta look it up right then and there.
Yeah, what is that? Like, oh, I should know that, and I kind of know it, but I don't know the exact answer, and I find it. So reason I'm bringing it up to you guys is because in all that, it's of course taking a little bit of toll on the podcast, amongst a lot of other things, but the podcast being one of them. So looking forward to January coming, taking that test and getting it behind me and promoting. I know that I've been telling different people, I say it's 2 more months for the next 20 years. It's a lot right now, but I know it's all going to pay off. And so I appreciate all the listeners that are sticking with us. I just had one of my buddies message me, and he's in the military, and he was flying somewhere to go serve a term, and he said that he was catching up on the last couple episodes, downloaded 10 episodes so that he could listen to. So Tim Puente, shout out to Tim if you're listening, man. I appreciate it. But thank you guys for hanging in there with us, man. We promise coming this next year, we're going to blow this thing up. We're going to be posting at least weekly, and then we're going to be adding little segments where we throw out some information, whether it's physical fitness, dietary things, firefighting stuff, because that's our niche, right? So we're going to be having some segments of Charge the Line on YouTube that's going to be putting out there. So thank you guys once again for sticking in. And now to get right into it, man, you kind of flipped the script on me last time, and normally me and T talk about what we're going to talk about or message, about the topics. But last time he kind of put me on the spot, and being that I'm going into or trying to get into the captain role here soon, we do a lot of talking about leadership, right? We talk about that all the time. But we don't ever really talk about followership, right? What it takes to be a good follower. Because not everybody can lead, right? Not everybody can get that title, get that position. I mean, we can all be examples, and we can all take initiative to lead, but we don't always, some of us, and quite honestly, I think there's some people out there that are just really great followers. That's not to say that they're bad employees. They would rather be in that follow position. Does that make sense, right? So what I wanted to come at you with today, being that you've gone through the ranks, firefighter 1, firefighter 2, engineer, captain, now battalion chief. I kind of wanted to pick your brain on what you look for, what attributes, what skills, what you look for in somebody that is under you, and as far as them being a quality employee for you, and so we'll jump right into that. I mean, let's talk about, I don't really want to put a number on it, but what is the first thing right off the bat that you look for in somebody that is a subordinate to you and doing a good job?
So, oh man, I love this topic. I think this is gonna be good. And first off, I'll start with like, because you made a comment, something along the lines of, not everyone's gonna be a leader, not everyone can lead. So I'll disagree with that in that I think like leadership is like a skill like anything else. And then like, you know, you've heard the expression like like natural born leaders. Like sure, there's
Right.
some people with like natural skills that are gonna like put them in a position to be a good leader. But I think it's like a culmination of a lot of different skills, you know, and so we can talk about those, but like a lot of different skills that like put you in that position. So it's something that you could like definitely like anybody could work on,
Yes,
you know.
and so yeah, let me take that back a little bit because I didn't mean like you have to want to, right?
Oh,
And I think there's
100%.
some people, because I was one of those guys at one point in my career, I was just okay with being the workhorse, with
Right.
just like I wasn't really taking initiative to do all the extra
Right.
or to set an example. I was just good with like, you need me to kick down that door, you need me to put this fire out, you
Yeah.
need me to be the medic, like I'll do that.
Yeah.
But I wasn't really proactive
Right.
in the other sense. So, I see what you're meaning, but
Yeah.
I
So
didn't.
like I've the analogy that I've heard before and I've used also like in other classes and stuff. Like I wasn't much of like a video game guy, but like I know like kind of how the video games work and like so like a video game you may have a character that has like different things like he's fast.
Different attributes.
Right, he's fast, like has a lot of power, like whatever the attributes are. And so like I see leadership like that, like all these attributes like that you have and some like naturally you're like really good at and some like oh I got to work on that, and then when you put all those together and followership is like one of them, is one of the attributes. And you know I don't know, I think like coming up like I always knew like for me personally like I wanted to be someone that I would want, how did I say it,
Yeah.
like I would want to be a supervisor of myself, right? Like
Right.
I knew like I wanted to do
You want them to be able to depend on you.
right. And
Right.
so that's how I always like as a follower was like they could count on me, like I was going to take care of it. They didn't have to think twice about like, oh, you know, give Tony the work. Right now, like in our department, a lot of like organizations, like the reward for doing good work
More
sometimes
work.
is more work, you know.
Yeah.
And like I think naturally like I'll probably say yes more than I say no. Like it's hard to say no, especially like if my boss is asking me to do something, like I'm going to do it, right? So you can find yourself in a position there where you wind up, you know, taking on too much. But um, like it was always good, like with the department, as far as like there was a lot of opportunity to lead. There's a lot of opportunity. It doesn't matter what rank you are.
Right.
Like you could be like always, and I always felt like too, like you know, you went through. I've been in every rank, and I've obviously done a lot of studying at work, and I felt like every time, like when I was in a place, and maybe they were like, "Oh, what are you doing?" It's like, "Oh, I'm studying for driver or whatever," and like it kind of like other people started to kind of do the same, and I take pride in that. Like I remember being at a station where I went to the station, no one really was studying. And because like the captain even told me like later after we all promoted, like pretty much the whole group wound up promoting, not all at once, but over like the next couple of years.
Right.
And he's like, man, before you came here, like everyone was like, we're just gonna ride medic 10, like we're just gonna, you know, get
Yeah.
our ass beat in every day,
Right,
like ride that
right.
box, and it's just gonna how it's gonna be. Because it was on A shift before I made this, when I was staying for driver. And that group, the entire group became drivers. And none of them, some of them were like, I don't think I want to be a driver. But it was like, hey man, it's like it's a good job, like it's a good position. And the reason I say is because, and when it comes to experience, it's like you're on the ambulance like you are now, but you have something going for you and then you have a lot of years of service. But if you were like earlier in your career, whatever your years of experience were, if you want to talk about fire experience, you would cut that number in half, because half the time you've been on
Right.
the ambulance.
Right.
I recognized right away, like I need to be on the fire truck like every day
Right.
to get that experience. Cause I'll be the first to admit, like I was a driver and not feeling like adequate when it came to firefighting. Like, man, half the time I've been on medic 10, you know, I made a lot of fires on the medic unit,
Right.
you know, I
right.
knew about it, you know, but like as far as being, now I'm sitting right next to that captain. What I happen to have a really good one, watching him, learning from him, every shift, every fire,
that
going
goes
to every
a long
fire.
way. Yeah.
That went a long way. And that's why I really always like recommend driver. Now you're in a different position and you have a lot of years overall. So you cut it in half, it's still a lot of experience because
Right.
you've done both, right? And for a long time, you didn't ride the box, so you were like on the fire truck every day.
That
So
and to be honest,
so
that was
that's
a
where you
big
learned
thing.
how to be a firefighter.
That
right?
was huge. I actually drove a lot when I was
People were
doing
gone,
that.
whatever,
People
yeah.
were gone, and I would always drive, so that helped me out
Yeah.
tremendously because, like you said, I was picking up on what the captains were doing.
You're with them
You
all
know,
the time,
right, right,
And then you have the luxury of you had a captain that you've had the majority of your career, the same guy. So like, and he's a good one. So like,
right,
you learn from him, and he's like put on you, and that's the whole thing about the learning curve with our job. Like, it takes years. Like, you never like. I still feel like there's so much I don't know. Right? There's so much, and it's one of those things that like you have to have that kind of outlook. Like, I just need to soak up more, learn more. Things change. Now we're talking about lithium-ion batteries. We got electric cars, electric, everything. And it's like, how are we going to put the, like, we got guys that are going to seminars and going to workshops. And it's like, what are we going to do about these types of fires? Like, I
right.
mean, how it's like things change, and construction changes. Like, I mean, you're reading all the books, like, better than anybody right now. Like, you have to be a student of the trade. You have to constantly, like, the learning never stops,
Right.
and you have to be a student in order to be on that edge. My biggest fear was always like, I never wanted to like think I was like the tip of the spear and then be like way in the back. Like,
Right.
I was like people looking at him like, oh, that guy doesn't know, like, never
Yeah.
was. That's like a fear of mine, like a nightmare. Like,
Yeah.
so I've made it a point to, like, whatever the latest data is, whatever, and
You want to be on top of it.
yeah, 100%. And so, and whatever that might be, and even like to experience it, like, we might say like, hey, this is what everyone's saying is the newest, greatest thing. And it's like, I want to see so I can make it be a judge for myself.
So is that something because that's something that you obviously did for yourself from a earlier standpoint, right? As a follower, as a subordinate, you were always trying to stay up on those things. Is that kind of a trait that you look for in people that are working under you?
I think it does come natural to a lot, like, and you'll recognize it. Like, what happens is, like, when you're a firefighter or a driver, like, man, you just show up, you rely a lot on the captain to tell you, like, oh, this is what we're doing today, this is what's going on. You really try to like be a good follower. When I became an officer, now I was responsible for other people in the station or on the truck.
Right.
It was like I had this like more of a burden, right? The burden of command, the burden of like, I'm responsible for them. Like, they're gonna come to me looking for answers, and I should know those answers. And at the same time, I'm not gonna bullshit them and like just make stuff up. Like, if I don't know, I'm gonna find out. Like, so I had to become even more of a student, and I had made a commitment back then, and I've been able to stick to this. I made captain in 2011, and it was like, once I was an officer, it was like, every year I'm gonna do something for myself, whether it's a conference, a leadership symposium, a tactics seminar, something. Even if I have to invest on my own, I will do something every year to get better at like learning something new, like whatever it is. And I got lucky because I got into hazmat and rescue, so there's constantly classes for that.
Oh yeah.
So I had plenty of options. Like, some years I would go to multiple conferences, but to this day, like, it's like, what am I going to do this year to better myself, invest in myself, so that I can be that guy. And so that's what it takes. And you asked me the question, I guess, what I recognize. I can tell, and like, I have some really good officers, and the thing about it is that they're dying to take on more. Like, I'm more of a facilitator at this point. It's like, what do you want to train on? And it's not like, we have to be careful in that it's easy to get into the, we're just going to show up and make calls, and we'll do whatever we're asked of, and like, that's enough. It's like, that's really not enough anymore. Like, you have to
Well, it should never have been enough, right? And to anybody that's listening, that and this, I know we constantly harp on firefighting. That's what we do. That's our shtick, right? But if you take what we're talking about, this doesn't just apply to the fire service. This applies to any kind of profession that you find yourself in. And unfortunately, in the fire service, we find ourselves where sometimes people do take that promotion, and maybe they don't have the best reasons. Maybe it's just a pay thing. I want to just make more money.
You have to ask yourself, and you see it in others, like, what's their motivation to do this? Some people like need that authority, like, that's for them. They want to be
the title, just
title
to have the title,
captain. Some people's for the pay. Like, I don't think that's a good reason, because it's not that much.
No.
Some people, and some people feel like they can affect change. Those are the ones that's like, okay, and you can tell who that is because they have ideas. And so, like, for me as a facilitator, right, it's like I have to be careful because they may come with grandiose ideas, and sometimes I can see like that's not really going to work. But I can't. I don't want to show that. Like I don't want to discourage like
Right.
their incentives and their like motivation. So it's like, how can I, like, yeah, let's do
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah, because
But
that can be discouraging.
yeah,
That
you
can be
never
huge.
want to do that.
And,
Yeah,
and I say that because I had that happen to me one time, and it had been years and years, and I had really neglected my ropes and stuff, and I was in the engine bay one day tying some ropes around a dummy, and I was thinking like, what are easier ways? Because we have our drag rescue device where we can pull somebody out, but realistically, that's real hard to get to if somebody's
with gloves on, and stuff,
gloves on, unconscious. So I'd always carried or I started at that point carrying a long life safety rope, and I had the dummy out there. I was by myself, not bothering anybody, and guy walks out there and he's like, "What are you doing?" I said, "Oh, I'm just trying to figure out how I can, say I'm in a warehouse fire. Guy goes down. I don't necessarily have to crawl. I can like pull them out by walking, but let me see how I can attach this to them." And I basically made like a love knot and just put it around their legs and formed a harness by wrapping it around their arms. And it was just me fucking around out there. And he's like, "Oh, well, you've been in this long and you're just now working on your knots." And and then it was like, that's never going to happen. Like,
and it always turns into that, and that's exactly what I'm talking about. And it's like, what you're just describing is like the perfect, like, everybody thinks like we have to do a class and it needs to be this formalized 8-hour CE credit class. It's like, no, like the best training is like hip pocket training, they call it in the military, or like what we would do a lot of threes is like, pick one piece of equipment, or let's talk about one topic. Let's talk about it in here. Let's talk about the best way. Now let's go out there and like try it. I mean, this is something that may take 30 minutes, may take an hour at the longest.
Yeah.
And it's like a morning that we went over something, we figured it out, and we're like, I'm going to try that next time. Because there's so many things, and you don't have to like be the one that's like writing the
manual on it.
Yeah, because like there's, the internet is like awesome. Like when it comes to those things, there's so many ways to do everything.
Right.
And like you said, something simple, something that's going to work with gloves on, limited visibility, like that's what makes it easy. There's a lot of grandiose, sexy type stuff, but stuff's never going to work, you know? So we have to be the ones to test it out. And it can't be like the first time you're doing is like on the call, like in the emergency.
But as a supervisor, well, so let's take it back a notch, right? Because right now where you're at, you should have people under you. And like you said, you obviously do, but you should have people under you by the time you're a battalion chief. We all know people fall through the cracks at captain, right? But you should have captains under you that are at least knowledgeable and proficient at what they're doing. But as a captain, it's totally different, right? Because you're I think that's the beautiful thing about being a captain is you're dealing with so many different skill levels, experience levels. I mean, you're gonna have the cadet that's just going through the academy, that's coming through the station. You're gonna have the rookie that literally it's his first day. Then you're gonna have the 20-year guy that's been in forever. So there's
that's the beautiful thing,
right?
Every one of those has a different perspective, and don't count the cadet out because he may have just went over something that's like we haven't even seen, or that's new that they're talking about, or the skills book that we can go to as a reference and say, okay, man, I don't even remember some of these. Like, let's go through this step by step, and we use that as a reference. Because here's the thing: for a long time, we've done like in-house training. Like the captains are going to train, which is great, right? You get a lot of autonomy to like do the training that you want to do. But then the question comes about, like, who's going to train the captains?
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
So now you're a new captain. You're like, okay, I'm supposed to be training these guys. Like, what am I supposed to train them on? And that's when I would go to them. Like, what do y'all think that we need to work on? Like, I'm new to the crew. Like, what? Like, I mean, most likely.
So by doing that, you're kind of you're empowering them,
getting some buy-in,
right?
And it might be something that you may have a guy that's building construction background, knows about roof rafters and like structural components of a roof, and it's like, man, we need to work on vertical ventilation. It's like, I'm going to put him, like, what do you think? And we start
using
going that way.
Once again, using his attributes, his
perspective,
right?
Resources, and then call the training division. They just set up the roof prop. They hadn't set that thing up. I don't know how many years that on the 2.5 story. We just set up the roof prop. Truck one went over there to help them set it up. We can go cut holes, whatever. Like, what resources do we have? I want to do some vertical ventilation. What do you guys have? What can you help me with? It's like, man, we got, you tell me the day, we'll have fresh plywood up there for you. You can cut holes however you want. acquired structures. Can we get some acquired structures so we can go out? We talked about that recently. It's like, man, there's so many things we can do with those.
Yeah,
So
and doing that realistic training is really eye opening, because as realistic as we try to make it, it's not gonna be.
the stress of the fire is not there.
It's not there,
Which is okay, and we can talk
Yeah.
about it like this is what we're gonna do. But then you got to make it as real as possible.
Well, and
we
it's
gotta
an
use
eye
our
opener.
protective clothes.
You know,
we gotta use our
it's
stuff.
an eye opener. I think in a lot of situations when you put that air pack on, you get out there and there's a little bit of heat, and you start working. You realize, shit, this is taxing me a lot more
Oh yeah.
than what I thought. I mean, you know, whether you're new or whether you've been in 20 years, we all should know and be aware of where we're at physically. You know, because
And I would caution you, and this is just in life. Don't make any assumptions. Don't assume anything, because it could be a 20, 30-year veteran, and you assume that, oh, he knows how to drive a fire truck. He's a firefighter, that ex-driver. He knows how to get a supply. He should know those things. As an officer, it's your job to know the capabilities, and you size everybody up just like you size up a structure. It's like, I know what he's good at. I know what he's not good at. It's my job to get him good at everything else, you know, that where he's lacking, along with myself. But don't make assumptions, because it'll get you in trouble. And, you know, like the simple assignment of supply. It's like,
it ain't that simple.
It's not
sometimes.
that simple, right? And it's like, the thing is like, we assume, driver's got it. He's going to get over there. He's going to have it. No problem. Runs into a problem with the plug. Runs into a problem with the truck. Boneheads something, makes a mistake, and he's by himself. You haven't given him a situation where he's going to be successful. You've kind of set him up for failure.
Yeah.
You know, even though it was unforeseen, now he has nowhere to.
Yeah, well, it's hard, especially when you have somebody that knows the basics, right? Because you can know the basics, but then what happens when they're not efficient? It's like, okay, I can hook up, but now my line just busted.
Yeah.
What do I do now?
And you're by yourself.
Shit, and you're by yourself. Yeah. Exactly. They, as in our department, as a captain, you got to know how to catch them up to the speed of all those things.
Yep.
Right.
And on the scene of an emergency, everything gets ramped up. You know,
of course,
several notches. So, you know, another attribute of being a good leader is staying calm. You know, because you've seen the people that scream and yell, freak out, you know, just like get out of hand. And like, man, it's not somebody you want to be around. Like, I want someone that's calm, that's going to like, this is what we're doing. They have a plan, and you try to be that person. And sometimes it takes like having to detach, like really think about like, okay, like what's going on here? Like it's like what we're doing right now isn't working. And we have to be able to take a back, because man, so many times it's like, what we're doing right now is not working, and we just like keep
going.
Like,
keep
like banging our heads against the wall, you know, literally. And sometimes it's just like, hey, reset. Like, this is not working. We're gonna try something else. It's hard to do when everybody's on that mode, you know. So there's a lot of things that go into it, but I think that you have a great background already, like with what you have, and then even like all your life experience. Your experience outside of work, you know, being a teacher, being a professor, like that's going to be huge. That's going to be huge, because you're able to teach people.
Well, that's the thing that's helped me. I think I sat at I got to a point where being a follower, I was really wanting to be that guy that you can.
You were chomping at the bit. You felt it, like I wanted to do that.
And that's but I wanted I still do, like I want to be that guy where if something needs to get done, like I can do it, and if I don't know how to do it, I want to figure out how to do it so that next time I can, right? And so I mean, as somebody that has people underneath him, I mean, we talked about you looking or what you would do, but I mean, what are some of the main things that you really? Let's do it like this. Give me two things that you really, really want, and two things that you realize you have to step in and change immediately. Like you have to confront them, which is usually the most difficult part of being a leader, is stepping in and saying, hey, look, we can't do this anymore. We've got to make these corrections. Right. So what are the two things, I mean, we talked about, I guess you could call it being a self-starter, right? Like being driven or motivated into trying to learn new techniques or further yourself for the betterment of the team. What's another one that you would say that you absolutely look for?
I would really have an issue with getting into the routine of, and because we're like what do we always call it, institutionalized, right? Like Mondays we do a certain thing, Tuesday we do a certain thing, Wednesdays we do, Thursdays truck day,
Right.
Friday, so that's already like established, right? So I would, something that where I would like really like sit down with a captain and say, we're not just gonna do the minimum requirements, right? We're not gonna just do the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Like you need to have like a plan as to how we're gonna like be getting better. Now, the great thing about our profession is that we're constantly testing ourselves. We get put to the test every day, right? You make a call, things go wrong. I've yet to make the perfect call. I've yet to make the perfect fire where everything went perfect. It's never happened.
Right.
It's never gonna happen. There's always things that we can work on, right? So we have plenty of things that's like nobody's perfect. I'm not perfect. You're not perfect. None of the crews out there are perfect. It's like we know the things that we need to work on. That's what we do after actions, critiques. It's like let's work on those things. So I would caution or sit down and put my foot down to where it's like we're not gonna just do the minimum. Just gonna get by. We're gonna train.
Have you ever had to do that?
100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
But not. I'm not gonna say like all the time, but just a reminder, like it's
Well,
not
because like you said, our job, and I mean we've all seen it. Anybody that's a firefighter knows it's as easy and laid back as you want it to be.
Sure.
Because all you got to do is check the boxes, right? Oh, I already checked out my equipment. Today's yard day. We cut the yard. We're done.
Yeah.
We don't have to do any further kind of training and realistically, in our department, as long as you meet that standard, like there's really not a lot of people that are gonna come down on you until shit hits the fan and somebody gets hurt and something goes wrong, and then they're gonna say, well, why didn't you know?
Why haven't y'all been doing this?
Exactly.
And that's the thing. It's like all these plans are all like great until they're not, right? Like it's like we always say. But
okay, so somebody, so we kind of went reverse there, but somebody that is kind of just meeting the minimum standard. That's one of the things that you absolutely won't tolerate. Yeah. What's another thing that is just a negative, like you can't work with this, it needs to be addressed, or this person is going to be getting
fortunately I've only seen this a few times, right? But like negative like a bad culture in a station, like a bad environment.
But in what way? Because that could be multiple things, right?
Because it's like being negative is contagious.
Okay.
And so when you have like
so you're talking about the guy that bitches and moans and complains about everything.
Because what happens is there's one of them, and then he finds himself somebody to confide in, and then there's two of them, and then now they're on the ambulance together, and then they're coming back, and now there's three of them.
And in a station of five,
and then the station is
the majority,
and the whole station is like anything I bring to them, it's like, oh, they're trying to do this conspiracy, this, oh, it's like, and like when that becomes, there's a leader in the station, and so I have to sit down and have a conversation with him. It's like these guys are a reflection of you. Like I'm your advocate, I'm here to help you, and I'll help you 100%. But if you're gonna be on the outside, like if you're rogue and you want to be against the department, bashing the department,
making noise,
like for the wrong reasons, like we still have like a job to do. And so like if it's like intruding on that, like it's starting to, like they're on calls with, and of course when I show up, everybody's on their best behavior. If I show up to a call, but like you already hear, like I'll hear things, people work over there. It's like, man, those guys are hard to work with, whatever. It's like, no, that's not gonna happen, because if that becomes like enough of an issue, it's like the chief has the right of assignment. Anybody can go anywhere at any time for
whatever
betterment of the department.
Yeah.
It's like if there's a place that, and this is deep. Like there have been, not in our department, but there has been studies where there was some aggressive, maybe some in our departments where we had to break up crews, but aggressive, just negative, just a bad culture in that. It's just like any organization, right? You're going to have bad apples, right? It just so happens like 3 or 4 bad apples are in the same place. Okay. Birds of the same feather flock together, right? So like they're in the same place. Now that becomes like just this cancer.
Well, and that's what happens when you have these guys that come in and they've only been out for 2 years, but they're riding with somebody that is burnt out, doesn't want to ride the ambulance. All he does is bitch about every call.
starts to ruin this person.
yeah,
Yeah.
because now he's a 2-year vet acting like he's
But
been in
there's a
20
captain
years.
there that should be,
on top
keeping
of it.
this
Yes.
straight. But then sometimes he gets sucked in, or he just has no, um, the firefighters are running the station, not the captains. And I tell the captain that all the time.
Yeah.
This is your station. Even the station that I'm stationed at, my office is a station 1. That's not. I'm responsible for the station, but there's captains there to take care of the station.
Yeah.
Like I'm not. Like that's their job. Like this is your station. You run it the way you want it. My office happens to be here. If you need
So
something,
that's
come
actually
to me.
one of the things that I was gonna see if you harped on a little bit, because I know as a battalion chief with everything you got going on. And like I said, this pertains to any kind of work atmosphere. The last thing you want is for somebody coming to ask permission that should be equipped and knowledgeable enough to provide the answer.
Well, and
right?
I get a lot of autonomy in my job, and I try to give like autonomy, right? It all transfers out. So it's like, man, like they don't have to ask me about like certain things, or like they shouldn't be asking me to solve their like chow fund problems. Like,
Right.
I mean, and if I have to remind them that it's like, this is y'all's deal, like you handle it, like I shouldn't be involved in this. Like, so that becomes like, what does the chief say? Well, what does he think? It's like, man, it doesn't matter what I think. It's like, this is something that you need to figure out with your crew, and everybody gets, input into that. But, like that, it's a good point. But unfortunately, man, I haven't, like I said, for the most part, we've like really good crews, really good working dynamics. But if it's ever a time where and you'll see it with a young captain with some super experienced firefighters, and they'll even say it like, "Oh, yeah, he's the captain, but we make the decisions." Right. And when you have that, you have to be real careful of that.
See, that's got to be hard as a young captain coming in, because when you got guys, it's like they tell you, right? Don't come in any type of leadership position. You don't want to come in and just like, this is the way it's going to be, my way or the highway. Yeah. That's not a way to get. That's not a way to get buy-in, right? But at the same time, when you got that,
can't be a pushover.
When you get that attitude, you kind of gotta like, like lay down that line and say, hey, this is the way we're going to do things. And I hate to say it like this, because I hate when people throw the whole gold badge thing around, but it's like, I'm the one that's got the gold badge, and I run the station, and this is the way shit's got to be.
And those are unsaid things a lot of times, and it should be, man. Like, you're a working supervisor, you show up when they see what you're about, and you're with them. You're not against them,
right?
And you're part of the team, just like they're part of the team. They'll want to do everything for you.
But when you got those stations that have those bad apples, like you said, and they've spread, and now you got 2 or 3 of them, and you're the motivated guy that comes in there. I mean, and like for you, when you came in, you were at a station that had been together for years.
Yeah.
And when you went to
every time it became, so when I wasn't like the youngest captain to ever make, but I was the youngest captain of the department when I made. I was the youngest battalion chief like when I made. Now there's been younger ones, but just I was always young. I was promoting fast I got in young, so everything was kind of young along the way on every rank. And so I showed up at a place where it's like all the guys. I was the officer in charge, and everyone. I was the youngest guy in the station. Everyone had a lot of years of experience and life experience too. So that was an interesting, dynamic.
Not only that, you were at a station where the guys, they already had a chip on their shoulder. Well, and they rightfully so. They knew their shit.
And I felt like we changed some of the culture there over time, and it wasn't just because of me, but it was like some organizational stuff too. We got a medic unit there, so we had younger guys there. We had other things happen while I was there, and they knew that I was committed to them. And that's the always thing too. I would always say, it's like, I'm the captain, I'm gonna be here. Like, I'm here. This is my station. Like, firefighters come and go, drivers come and go. Like, I'm here. Like, I'm the constant that's gonna be here unless I promote. So you kind of put it that way, and it's like, if they don't like it, they can go somewhere else. And every place that I've been, and this is what happens too, is like when you're at a busy place, everyone that's there is there because they want to be there. And so that's why I always liked it. Now, you talk about places where it's like slower stations. Why are they there? Well, I want to study. I want to do that. You get into that, and it's like, man, we still got a job to do. Right. Like, your job's not to come in here and study. Right. Like, you still have a job to do. We have responsibility. We have, they're counting on us, on the island or in the bluff or wherever, And so, those are things, the conversations that you have to have. But one of the biggest things is like just being honest, being able to communicate. People love to be in the loop. Like, and I figured this out early. It was like, what do we got going on next shift? what's the roster look like for next shift? If you'll be, and like Randy's really good about that, like organize, like this, you already know, like in 3 shifts, this is what we're doing. Like
Right.
I'm an open
Nothing's
book.
a surprise.
There's no secrets. There's no surprise. They're part of the deal. This is what we're training on. This is before spring break. We're going to start doing extrication because you know what? There's going to be a lot of traffic out. There's going to be rescues. We need to be on top of it. So like we knew that like before, a few months before we were starting work on extrication, we had stuff going on. We're finding cars. We're trying to figure out how we're going to train, how we're going to do this. Let's bust out the tools. Let's get our hands on it. And everybody was on board. Everyone was part of it. And I had guys too that were really good, worked at Teeks, were part of the task force, Texas Task Force 1. Like they were experienced. Like, so we rely on them. We're going to have you guys give the extrication class because they're the subject matter experts. Even though I'm the captain, like I'm relying on that resource.
So how do you deal with people that don't want any part of that though? Like how do you, and I might be asking you, you may not have dealt with it personally, but I know you've probably had people that have, right? Because I mean, you talk to all the battalion chiefs, but it's one of those things where it's like, hey man, you got to do this. I heard the other day, now I give my guys shit because the other day I ended up doing a presentation for 3.5 hours because nobody else wanted to do it.
Saw a video or something.
And that was some damn bullshit. But, I enjoy talking to the kids and I talk a lot of shit about it, but I do enjoy those things. I just didn't think I was going to be the only one doing it for like 3.5 hours, right?
Yeah.
but like 8 different classes. But there are those people that are literally just like, no, I'm not going to do that. I don't want to do it. I mean, and the hard part, I think,
don't want to, like, they're not going to train. I mean,
I heard the other day somebody said that they refused. It was the same situation. They had a visitor at their station. They were giving a presentation. One of the guys was acting. So this is what made it unique. The guy was acting captain, right? So he's not technically the captain from there. They had to go give the presentation. And one of the guys from a different station that came, they asked him to help.
Yeah.
And he was like, no, I'm not going to do it. And they're like,
presentation.
Yeah. And they already had like 3 or 4 of the other guys helping, taking the gear on, giving the presentation. So most of the crew was involved. And this dude was just like, no, I'm not going to do it. And it's like, and that's the hard part about it, because it's almost like in that situation where it's basically an equal, you're not equal for the day technically, but you're an equal. It's like, how do you really stir that pot? But even I could see that even as a captain, when you get somebody like that, it's almost like they're just coming through. Let them. And I can say this personally because I've had some instances where I give Randy a little bit of shit, right? Because he's a hard ass on us, me especially. But
well, he has investment in you guys because you're there every shift,
right?
When there's someone that's passing through, it's like,
and
there are some things, and I hate to put it this way, is like, is it worth it? Is the juice worth the squeeze? Right? Is it worth, like, call the chief, like, let's make a big deal about this. And it's like, this guy's he's somebody else's problem,
right?
He's just here for the day, and it sucks that it's that way. But I mean, they're out there, they don't want to do. They want to do the bare minimum. It's exactly what I'm talking about. Like, I don't necessarily want them in my battalion.
I guess
as long have a choice.
I guess as long as it's not to where it's affecting, like, somebody comes in, they don't want to check out the equipment. That's a different situation.
Issue. And that was back real quick before we move forward. You said, like, what's the one thing? Like, put your foot down. Like, any safety violation of any, so like not using your PPE. Like, and we all know, like, our chief now is every chief that we've had, but it's like especially now, it's like anyone that's not using their PPE, like at like what we've bought for you to use, like at these calls where you're supposed to be using it. Like, he's straight up like, anyone that's not using it has no business being in this department. And I don't think we can argue with that. No, like, I don't think there's any, like, that's for you and me and your family and everybody else, like, to keep you safe. Like, obviously you should be using, we think it's like, it's obvious, right? But sometimes not so much, so it's, like, if somebody's not using, it's very simple. It's like, and here's the whole thing of that everybody feels like, oh, the chief's going to come in here and get in your ass and scream and do this. It's like, that's not my reaction at all. It's like, you don't want to use your stuff. Okay. Is there a reason that, okay. It's like, let's go see what the operations chief thinks about it. Let's haul his ass over there. Like, we'll put him in front of the operation. He doesn't want to use his protective clothing. Right. Okay. Is there a reason why? No. Okay. Let's go see what the fire chief wants to say about it. Run to the fire chief. Like, it's like, okay, we this is what we're doing. This is the policy that shows this is what we're supposed to be doing. He decided that he didn't want to do it. This is what, you're not doing anything to me. You're doing this to yourself. And whatever repercussions come from that, whether it's shifts off, time off, days off, and relocation to their station,
you're doing
you're doing this to yourself. But we have to hold people accountable. We can't just be like, well, he's just a jackass,
Yeah.
and that happens
Even
a lot.
though he probably is.
Yeah, and that happens a lot. Or they know how much to push. I'm gonna push,
That's the thing
push
that I
here.
think. Yeah,
And
that's
and,
gonna
and,
be.
and as an officer, you have to really like just know it's gonna happen, and don't let it like the reaction that they want is for you to scream and cuss and everything
Yeah,
else,
get all
and then be like,
pissed off.
oh, he's cussing at me.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's using his
Oh,
badge.
they know how to. They know how
And
to.
so don't give him that.
Yeah.
Don't give him that. When it's like, no, I don't want to do that. I'm not going to do that. Okay. It's like, we're going to call the ops chief, see what he wants to do about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you might find your ass reassigned to another station and stuff like that.
And then that's on you.
And yeah. And then it's like, oh, I'll do it.
Yeah.
I was just playing. You know what? I think it's going to be better for you to be not a good fit here.
Yeah.
And that happens,
Yeah. Well, that's what I think is so unique about,
and with that, if that's the case in those situations, that's when there's a call to the operations chief. Hey, I need you to support me on this. Like this is what's going on. We've multiple times. This has been the problem. I've documented it. I need your help on this. He already has a heads up. No surprises. Never put your boss in a position where he's like Roger, you didn't tell me you were having issues with this firefighter.
Yeah.
Like he needs to be in the loop on everything.
I feel like you're reading a book to me right now.
Well, it's just
because that's one of the things it talks about.
Don't
in the books is like you always keep your supervisor informed. Any kind of
even little conversations that you have, like, hey, I had to tell him about this. He missed a call. He slept through a call.
Right.
And this is what I'm doing. We're gonna work through it. I'm gonna tell him.
But they need to be in the loop.
Yeah.
So that when you do come with that,
it's already
write up or whatever.
On this. Yeah.
It's documented.
So that's how it goes. And then it's like the phone call that I make, like I need you to back me up on this. This is what I got, and that's happened. And it's like,
but man, that's got to be frustrating because I've also heard times where that phone call gets made and it's like it's upper management, but nothing happens.
Well, and you know what? At the end of the day, if that's the case, and that's a likely scenario. If that's the case, man, you did everything that you could.
But I've seen captains that have literally gotten sour because of that and totally changed who they were.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, me too. Changed who they were. Well, you told me something the other day, and we were talking about something else, but it stuck with me because it's like I know that in my life I've had things where I've really wanted to act a certain way because somebody was doing something to me, and you can't let that change you, right? Because that's who you are. Yeah. Who you are is who you are. And it's a shame when I see these guys who are great leaders just all of a sudden plummet in their approach to the job because they got upset at somebody that didn't agree with them, or they brought something to a chief that didn't necessarily
handle it correctly.
Right.
And that's one thing I have to recognize. Like, man, when people bring stuff to me, it's like, man, there's expectations. Are the expectations like, is it like, are they reasonable? Like, is this something, can I explain this out? Like, this is what we're gonna do. This is what we need to do. It's something that might like require action immediately. And then I'm going to like respond with that. Right. And because that is what we're talking about earlier. It's so easy to discourage somebody. They're bringing training, they're bringing an issue, they're bringing something. And you're like, it's not a big deal. Like you just ruined, like you just,
they're not going to bring anything to you.
It's not going to bring, it's like, he's not going to do anything about it. So that comes on my end to where it's like, back to what I've said before on other things. Like when someone says, hey chief, you got a second? I'm like, I'm all ears. Like, what do you got? Like,
well, and I hope everybody out there that's watching on YouTube and listening is really, like I said, I harp on it because I know we talk about firefighting, but you guys got to realize, man, a lot of these lessons that I've learned through trial and error also as a leader of a gym, right? I've had the same things happen to me. I have the same instances.
Dealing with people, 100%.
Dealing with people. They come in, hey, coach, can I talk to you? Door closed. Like, hey, this person is doing this, or this person, makes me uncomfortable, or this person pissed me off. And it's all like human related issues that we're dealing with. That's 90% of the problems that we run into are communication issues, right?
People issues.
That aren't seeing eye to eye, that somebody pissed me off, somebody did this, somebody did that. And it's like, we've got to be the mediators to find the solution to it.
And kind of what you're talking, like we're talking about the culture of a station, or the kind of like how the attitudes are, is like, it's really bad. Like if the captain's part of it, like sometimes he's the leader of the negativity, right?
Absolutely.
And that's like huge. So another
Well,
thing,
and
as
that's where it comes
was what
into
I'm saying,
the
if I
battalion
see that,
chief.
it's like
Yeah.
no, 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 no. It's not how this works. And it's just that old like Saving Private Ryan line. It's like all of your complaints and bitches and you know grievances should go up. Like never like complain down. If you
Right.
start to be like, oh, this is bullshit. We shouldn't even be doing this. Like if that starts to happen and you find yourself like now you're complaining like to your guys,
Stop.
well, the thing is that's fine, and they're all going to hear you do that. But when there's something that you're trying to implement that you think's a great idea or whatever, and they don't, it's like very easy to be like, oh, this is bullshit, whatever,
Yeah.
because you've already
I
shown
can say,
that.
man, I've been under some great captains, fortunately, and that's one thing I can say that I've never experienced. Um, I had John Leahy,
Yeah,
Randy, of course Matt Wood,
yeah,
and I've never had a captain like bitch to me about administration implementing something or doing something. Randy is, hey boss, you want me to do that? Like I'm working from 8 o'clock to 8 o'clock.
yeah,
Like you tell me to do it, I'm gonna do it. Whether I agree with it or not, I'm gonna get it done.
yeah.
And that's
And we
how
talk
the
and
approach
talk
should
about
be.
stuff
You
like
know,
100%, but like don't like just shoot it down like this is stupid because it's just you create that and then it becomes on everything
right?
that you try to implement.
Yeah.
This is stupid. Why are we doing this? So
Well,
you know,
anytime there's change, right? That's
yeah.
one thing
And
firefighters hate.
and as a
So.
captain too, like I always did this, and I do it now too. Like find other captains like that you or battalion chiefs that you can confide in. Like, hey man, this is the deal, the issue that I'm having. Like, what do you think? And you wind up like figuring a lot of things because it might be something that he's seen before or he has or has
Right.
history with that firefighter. That's like, oh yeah, he likes to come in and drink coffee for 45 minutes and not
Right.
check out the truck. And that's a common one, right? I've had to deal with that one before, right? Like he comes in and he goes straight to like the coffee deal and then sits there for 45 minutes to check out the truck. So first it starts with a conversation. It's like, hey, you come in. The first thing we're gonna do, and this is expectations, like as an officer, is like the first thing you're gonna do is check out your equipment because you might walk in that door and the tones go off,
Right.
and we're gonna be expected to be ready. That's the expectations that we're gonna make the call. And so we got to have our stuff on the truck and then we got to make sure that everything's there. So like, and you can agree, we can all agree, right? Yes, yes, yes. So you set the expectations. Then you continue to observe and watch. And he wants to come in and do the 45-minute coffee break. It's like, hey, we talked about it the other day. The first thing I need you to do is check out your equipment. Oh, you understand? Oh, yeah, we're on the same page. Yeah. And you keep watching. And so it's like, it's very easy to hold them accountable at that point. If they continue to do it, then obviously you have a problem, right?
Right.
But some people aren't willing to do that work.
Mm-hmm.
But you do that little bit of work and it's going to help you and save you because eventually,
without flying off the handle.
well, number one, you get frustrated and you start yelling and everything else. Now he's not listening.
You're not being
Nobody's
heard.
listening,
Yeah.
right? But the other thing is that ultimately, what's the behavior that you want? Ultimately, to be successful, you want him to check his equipment out and put his stuff on the truck. That's ultimately what you want. So what are we going to do to make that happen? You're going to hold him accountable. And if he doesn't, then we're going to keep going down that line until it's like he's either going to do it or not be there.
Well, cool, man. I appreciate you dropping some knowledge, man. I know we have you on here, and it's funny because I know you're the co-host, but you've got a wealth of experience and knowledge in the fire service. And, like you say, you continue to educate yourself. You continue to strive to do more. So before, we filmed this, I was like, man, I want to see what your thoughts are. And because it's the same thing for me in jiu-jitsu. Like, I'm looking for those guys too as leaders. It's not like when you get rank in the gym, you're automatically a coach, right? I'm looking for certain qualities. I'm looking for certain things that way because they represent me. They represent the team. I've got kids I've got a kids program, so I have adults that are overseeing them.
Yep.
I've got to look. I can't just
Can't put anybody in there.
just put anybody in there to run the gym.
Yeah. And then the parents are watching, so then they have like their concerns or whatever.
So what's funny about it is it's like, man, I correlate, fighting or jiu-jitsu to firefighting all the time, and even in the management aspect of the gym, it's the same.
It is.
It really is.
Well, you're a manager, supervisor. I mean, that's what it is. Business owner. It's very similar.
Even though it's a little, there's not really. Our only HR is if somebody does something stupid, it's probably going to the law.
Yeah.
We don't have to worry. We're a little more brash and uncensored in some areas that I could probably be as a supervisor in the
But it
department.
is like being a part of it now. It's like it is a good culture, like a good like when you walk in there, everyone's friendly. Or like it's not. I haven't been anywhere else, but it is welcoming. You know, so like you're doing something right because you know you had 20 people show up on a Saturday open mat. Like I mean, things are happening that are
Yeah,
like the right
yeah.
way. So
Yeah, and I
that's a
think it just goes back to listening to your people.
yeah
You know, as a leader, like you got to listen to your people. Being a good follower, you know, it takes you willing to really step out of your comfort zone in some areas, and so that's what I look for. You know, when I have my people that are there and willing to do the extra, willing to you know, whether it's, hey man, can you cover this
yeah
class for me, or can you, you know, it's something as simple as throwing the trash.
yeah
You know, it means so much when I get guys like mopping, and
yeah. I'm
people
a,
don't think I realize it, man. But I see the same guys that mop, and then I know the guys that don't, and it's, to me, it just, because to me, that, you know what that shows, that's selfless. That's showing that you're there, you're for the team, you're willing. You don't care if you grab the mop every time, like you're just gonna do it.
yeah.
And there's some guys that they get their workout in and they just bounce, you know, and
Peace.
I'm out. But
Yeah.
it is what it is. But
I'll throw something back at you. What like kind of a hypothetical, and it's something that I thought about before I promoted. And I mean, you're in that mode, man. You're like, it's gonna happen. So it's like now it's your first day. You're driving to your new assignment. You have a crew that you know not familiar with. How is that? So for those that don't know, like in the morning we throw our stuff on the trucks first thing you should do, and then at 8 a.m. that we have a little more we have a little tone that goes off and it says, you know, equipment check and roll call and equipment check. And so then we have kind of like a meeting area, whether it's a kitchen room table or it might be at station one. It's a little counter that's there, and we have a little quick meeting to like establish who's where and what's going on. So it's your first day. You're the brand new captain. You show up. How's that first conversation gonna
man,
go?
you know, with the group as a whole.
The group, you got the whole
So
group,
sitting
and
down
so
at roll
this is
call,
your first day. You're
man,
the new.
I've already ran through it in my head,
I
man.
knew it. Yeah,
Yeah, I've already ran through it in my head, and the first thing, you know, if anything, is I want the guys to know that you know, I'm there for them.
yeah.
Right, like open door policy. Whether
You
it's
want to
your
be approachable.
family, I want to be approachable, and because I'm like that at the gym, right? I don't care if it's your family. I don't care if it's work. I don't care. I get messages. I mean, shit. I'm like a therapist a lot of times. You know, just sitting and listening
Yeah,
or giving feedback, and I want to carry that over to whoever I'm serving,
right.
because in that, as, as a captain in the department, man, what you're doing is first of all, you're living with these guys every third day. Like I want to have that tightness amongst ourselves. Like we are gonna have to depend on each other to, you know, if shit hits the fan in the worst case scenario and our lives are on the line, like I want to look next to you and know you look at me and you know I got you,
Yeah,
and I know you got me, and we're gonna get through this. And so I want to, you know, I'll let them know for sure that, you know, open door policy, I'm here to listen. I'm here whether it's work related or not, because shit that affects you outside of work becomes work issues,
yep,
right? So
yep,
so I'm there. Number two, like I can't say I was 100% by the book guy, but the important shit will get done,
right.
right? The things we need to do, we're gonna do, and you know, I want to make sure we're all on the same page. I want to be, I want to be, I'm gonna be a hungry captain,
Yeah,
like, and I want to train. I want our guys to have maintain some kind of level of fitness. If they've never done fitness at all, hey, I'll walk you through it. But
yeah,
our job as firemen is to use our bodies in ways to help other people. So we need to be fit. And I want that to be a staple, even to the point where, you know, we're going to check out the equipment, check out the trucks first, because that needs to happen. But I'm already like, is station day, should that take precedent? Is yard day, should that take precedent over us getting a group workout in?
yeah,
In my opinion, it shouldn't, because physical fitness is the number one thing, and there's some guys that are too busy outside of work to do it. So hey, great, let's do a 30-45 minute workout together, you know.
yeah,
So that's good, but in that, part of it is just laying my expectations, setting forth what I'm going to be looking for, and letting them know like, hey, I'm going to use you guys as my resource.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to come to you. There might be, I don't know everything, and if there's
And
something
they may
you
be in
want to
that
do,
territory. They already are familiar with the area. They know all the things
yeah.
about that fire truck and
But
that territory.
even
So
the new guys,
yeah.
like, if I might have a guy that's, you know, been in 2-3 years, and I'm gonna say, hey, if there's something that you see that we're doing that, you know, an easier way to do, by all means, show me, tell me. Let's figure this out, how to make this job better together, because in the end, that's what we're all there for. It's not about, you know, who has the gold badge and who's in charge. It's about, let's work as a unit together. And that's the beautiful thing about competing with the guys and training with the guys, is that's what it's taught me. It's taught me how to fight as a team to accomplish a goal.
Yeah.
And firefighting is no different, man. We got a goal we got to accomplish. We're going to accomplish it, and there's ways to do it. And you got to use everybody that you can, and nobody, yes, by rank, people are higher. Yes, by experience, people may have more knowledge. People may have more, but nobody is above anybody.
Yeah.
You know, we're all equal. We're all, your life is just important as mine, and, you know, vice versa. So,
Yeah.
you know, that's kind of the foundation of what I really am just gonna put out there. You know, I'm already having dreams. I'm already seeing it.
Yeah.
I'm already, like, I'm in the zone, and,
Yeah.
and I know it's going to happen.
Yeah.
I just don't want to be one of those guys that's like, got to wait like 5 or 6 months. There's
Yeah.
openings I want to make right away.
Oh, yeah.
So
Yeah.
hopefully I'll be having this talk with the new crew,
Yeah.
you know, sometime mid-January, and I'll get promoted, and you know, I'm really looking forward to being able to make a difference, man.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
we talk about pay. The transition is actually going to be, I think I'm going to lose like $100 actually, initially.
At first. Yeah.
At first. But we were talking about it, and it's like, man, it's actually a little bit of a pay cut, but it's not about the money.
No.
You know, it's not about the money. And Ashley was like, well, but it's about the position, right? And I said, well, yes, it is. Or she goes, the title. I said, no, it's not about the title. It's about the position.
Yeah.
It's about being able to have an effect.
Right now, you can have great ideas, and you have a captain that's willing to like listen to everything, but they can kind of like, you don't have an avenue to affect change. You're gonna have a platform.
Your sphere of influence.
Yeah, you're gonna have a platform to like
it grows.
affect the entire culture of a station,
and
not only, like you're one shift, but if your shift is like kicking ass, like that starts to bleed over. And then you
because
change
then you
the entire station.
Then you got other guys that are working on other shifts. I've seen it in our shift.
Seen it happen. Yeah.
I've seen it where we get guys and they come over to train, and they're like, man, I hadn't trained in so long. This was fun. And it's like,
we're going to do this when I get back. We're going to do this.
They're the last people that they thought you would enjoy training, but they
Yeah.
did, you know? So,
so man, setting the
cool.
expectations is huge. And then the only other thing I'd say, my advice would be to listen and to allow the opportunity. Like, hey, what do y'all got for me? Like, there's going to be things that you're going to have. And like, we don't have, like, I'm not asking right now. Well, if you have something right now, they may be nervous. Like, hey, how would we handle chow or whatever? But like, is like, if you come up with something you want to know, like you have a question as far as how we're going to, like, let me ease your, like, you come to me and we'll work it out. Like, we're going to figure it out. So just be that open book, like we talked about already, because sometimes that's kind of to their anxiety, is like, well, we got a new captain. What's he going to want? You know?
Well, and that's
like,
the thing I think with me that's really helped at our gym is people know that they can come to me.
Yeah.
They know, and I get it all the time. Like, oh, I thought you were gonna be an asshole. And I'm like, I mean, I know I'm big and I got tattoos, but that don't mean I'm an asshole.
Yeah.
But it's, you know, showing that side to people, really, I honestly, that gets more, to me, that gets more buy-in than somebody that's technically proficient and knowledgeable, because you can be a badass, but if you don't know how to be a people person, good luck.
You're gonna struggle.
You know, good luck. So
you know, the acronym, the PPE is personal protective clothing, but they say once you're a supervisor, it stands for something else, and it's like people, personalities, and egos.
Oh,
so,
there you go.
Yeah, so that's pretty
one.
much it's about dealing with people, and you have background in that, so I think you're gonna be fine. But I mean, you'll still have some hiccups along the way.
Hopefully I don't jinx myself and fucking totally bomb it. But you know, I'm positive thoughts in the air, and I know I put in the work.
Hitting it, yeah.
And that's what I tell people, man. I tell people I kind of sound like a dick, because I'm like, you ain't studying enough, man. You think you're gonna? And I told somebody this the other day. You think that I'm paying what I'm paying for my daughter to, because I'm basically paying for my daughter to go to daycare
So you
so
have
I
the
can
free
study,
time,
right?
yeah.
So you think I'm missing valuable time with my daughter, you know, so that I can not pass? Do you think that I'm sacrificing time with my family? Do you think that I'm
Weight
spending
room time.
hours? I said that. I said I work out like twice a week. I lift weights like twice a week now, where I was doing it 5-6 days a week. You think that I'm sacrificing that so I can go into
Sacrificing my
this
body.
test? Yeah, come on, man. I'm like, I went from like 9% to like 12% now. No, I'm not that
Yeah,
lean.
man, our
Fuck no.
workouts. Nah, I've been working out this week.
Yeah, they'll get back. They'll get
Yeah,
back. January, I'm looking forward to it, man, because it's gonna be. I told Ashley, I feel bad. I mean, her mom, we left. Shout out to Nancy because she just. I come home, dude, and we have 4 trash bags full of crap. Everything's clean. I have not seen my washroom
laundry room. Yeah,
that clean since before we moved in.
yeah.
Like, shout out to my mother-in-law. She's a
Oh,
awesome
angel.
awesome angel, man, but she definitely kicked ass, and it's all because like normally I'm able to run errands, I'm able to pick
Yeah,
up a little
during the
bit,
day
take
you
the
got all
load
your
off of
time.
Ashley,
Yeah,
but I literally, like, tomorrow 8 o'clock in the morning to 1 o'clock, I'm studying. I'm starting to back off on my privates. I got to pick up my daughter at 4. So between 1 and 3, I'm probably get some stuff done in between the house. But I can't work out because then if I work out, I'm not going to be able to do anything at the house. So it's just, that's what. But we talk about being obsessed. That's what it takes, man. And so hopefully, we'll be working towards that path. And we always preach hard work, but we also talk about it. Life's not fair, right? Shit happens, things happen. So you just got to be ready to set yourself up for the best possible outcome, and just hope that you're doing what it's going to take. And that's what I'm doing. And like I said, the podcast is suffering a little bit, but we got one in
We'll
today.
get back.
We got
We'll
one
get
in
back.
today.
Yeah.
So thank you guys for tuning in. Much love. Thank y'all for the support, and keep an eye out. This episode will actually be released today, Monday, and then we're gonna have it up on YouTube shortly after. So if you haven't followed or liked, go check out our YouTube channel.
Yeah.
Check out everything, man. Check out the Narvice Jiu-Jitsu page if you're interested. Check out our YouTube, and then check out our Charge the Line stuff on Instagram and on Facebook. So like we always say, till next time, don't forget, charge that line.